But I wanted to, we were studying Luke, but I wanted to let Scott just continue he's doing such a good job of Luke that I didn't want to kind of interrupt the flow of it for him. And there's a book that I've read, and I've actually given it to numerous people, and it's called The Sender. It's by Dr. Kevin Elko and Bill Bose. And the background on the book is it was Chuck Panaggio. I don't know if any of y'all know who I'm talking about, but he is and was an NFL coach for the Indianapolis Colts. He was their head coach in 2012. And right before the Colts season, he found out he had cancer. He had leukemia. And he was going through chemotherapy. And Dr. Kevin Elko, that wrote this book, Dr. Kevin Elko, a little background on him, he is a sports psychologist and a speaker and he helps sports teams work together to improve their performance and and he's worked with numerous championship teams, including the University of Alabama, on a lot of their championship seasons. Some of the things that you hear Coach Saban and the players say are the things that Dr. Elko has implanted in them, said, hey, these are things you need to a mantra that you kind of repeat to be where your feet are. I know y'all probably heard that one. And it's just be in that moment and, put things, the disappointments or things that happen to you, you got to put those aside and go on. So Dr. Kevin Elko, he was friends with this Chuck Panaggio, and as he was going through these the chemotherapy, every day for the whole treatment regime that Chuck Panaggio went through, Dr. Kevin Elko sent him a message. And him and this other gentleman took all of that and they wrote a book, and it's called The Sender. And they made it based on a fictional Alabama high school coach that developed cancer right before his season, and he was going through chemo. And they shared all these letters and messages that were transpired between Kevin and he would sign it in the book, the fictional book. It was always The Sender is how he signed the book. So, it's to me, it's very powerful. And I've got a friend right now that's going through chemo, and I bought the book and gave him a copy because I just know that people that are facing these circumstances, it's helpful, because most of Kevin Elko's messages are biblically based. And this is one that I just picked out, and I'm gonna read this, and then we'll have some discussion. A lot of the things that everybody faces adversity. We just don't know what people are facing in their day-to-day lives, and a lot of times we forget to be kind to people. We need to always be looking to be helpful and be a blessing to someone, because you never know the circumstances that somebody is under at any given time. So I'm going to read this real quick, and then we'll have a discussion. And this is a note that he wrote. And Charlie, Chuck Panaggio, the other guy's name in the book is Charlie, the coach. And he said, I have a game plan, Charlie. Hope you are all well, my man. Here's what your game plan is today. Break free of me. Your game plan for today is Galatians 6:10. It says to be mindful to do good to others, especially those who are in the family of believers. I want you to purposely live this game plan, to be kind to a number of people today. How? Through encouraging words, a thank you, a helpful attitude. That's your game plan. I heard this fellow telling a remembrance of his father. One day my father took the whole family to the circus, and standing there in front of us in line was a family of 5. When the family got up to the window for their tickets and was told the price, the dad's head just dropped. You could tell that he didn't have the money, much less the money to get in the circus. His kids were going to be crushed, so my father took out a $20 bill out of his wallet and tossed it on the ground. Then he yelled up to the man, I think you dropped this. The man turned around and looked at the money being handed to him. He was confused for a second. Then he knew. He took the money, bought circus tickets for his whole family. Then my dad looked at me and said, "We're not going to the circus today. I don't have the money for it." That was what he remembered about his dad. What people will remember about you at the end of the day is your kindness. That's your game plan. You know me, I've always given you that your game plan for that day. That's the one for today. The sender, Galatians 6, 1 through 10, is the Apostle Paul at his game planning best. Each other's burdens, and in the way you will fulfill the law of Christ. Now, of course, Paul directs us to focus this burden on carrying on the family of believers. But how about others? Honestly, do we like this message much? Are we bathed in commercials and subtle media-driven messaging telling us that the only happy and successful way to live is for me? We've all been raised to put ourselves in front of everyone else, and we do it very well. We're unconsciously competent in driving ourselves to the front of all lines and ignoring those in our path. You've heard this before, though, right? None of this talk about self-centeredness is new to us. We've been reminded and warned about our epic brand of 21st century selfishness. But let's note that the Apostle Paul was talking about it too. The reason Paul was even writing about this is because his culture, the Greek culture of Galatia, was pushing the same thing at the time, and the antidote hasn't changed. It all boils down to making a conscious decision to put others first. Read Paul's letter carefully. Breaking free of me is essential to creating a working game plan of your own. It implies that the key to fulfilling the law of Christ is being kind to others and literally forgetting about me. It's about taking simple action on behalf of others, no matter who they are, what their station in life is, or what they can or cannot do in return for you. Stop thinking and start working on the game plan. Let go of me and serve others. In the end, you get the benefit and win anyway. Paul spent a great deal of time in prison. He had lots of time to think and prepare. Take a page out of his game plan. In Acts 16:22 through 40, we see how Paul planned and prepared. It's a good guideline for us. And it says, I'm going to say, hey, let's discuss specific ways we can incorporate Paul's game plan into your life. I guess the first thing I'll say is, in the verses referenced, Paul's been stripped, beaten, thrown in prison, and it still doesn't impact his faith and his belief. I mean, under those circumstances, I'm not sure I could do it. You beat me, strip me, and throw me in jail, I'm going to be on the verge of despair, I'll tell you right now. So it's the strength of Christ that allowed him to be able to maintain that belief and maintain that strength. Once he was in prison, him and Silas were praying and singing hymns, and were they rejoicing? I'm asking. I think they were. I think they were actually in prison, having been beaten and stripped, and they were rejoicing in prison. So for us to have that kind of faith and belief that no matter what the circumstances that we're in currently, that God can keep us, keep us safe and will answer our prayers. And it's just, there's certain circumstances and things that happen to us that it's really difficult. I mean, I'm sure all the people in this auditorium this morning have been through circumstances, and they've struggled through things that were very difficult. But at the end of the day, I think because we are all here, we all believe that God will take care of us. So I just think Paul's attitude is great, but it's really, to be, for us, it's hard. I mean, nobody in this room knows that it's not hard sometimes. So, but we've got to always pray and give it to the Lord. And sometimes the answer may be wait, no, and you don't know the plan. God knows the plan, and sometimes I mean, I've had circumstances in my life that I've had things going on, and I think of one thing that in my mind, just being a human being, that I think that this is what I want. Pray about it, turn it over to God, and something completely different. I'm disappointed somewhat sometimes. 2-3 years down the road, I'm like, man, I'm so glad he didn't give me what I wanted. I would be in a world of hurt, in a place that I didn't really want to be. And so I think that having that faith and having that commitment to pray to him and trust that he's going to answer it in the way you do. I mean, I'm not a worrier, okay? My wife's a worrier, okay? She worries about everything. And I tell her all the time, I'm like, Lisa, you can't do that. You've got to pray about it and let it go, because it's not, it really, if you read it, it's sinful to worry. Because God expects us to give these things to him and relieve our burden and trust that he's going to take care of it for us. So I think that the faith and the belief that Paul had is central to one of the things for a game plan for us. He also knew that he would be persecuted. They went to these places knowing full well that they were going to be persecuted by people, or potentially persecuted by people. They didn't expect to be welcomed with open arms, but they still went in there preaching God's message. A game plan where that you're going in a situation that it potentially is not going to, you have every confidence that it could degrade into you being beaten, thrown in jail. It's still the game plan. So a lot of times we face circumstances and we've got to go into situations that we don't necessarily want to, but sometimes what's the option? Doing nothing is not an option. So sometimes you've got to do things and put yourself in situations that are uncomfortable. My children and my coworkers growing up and working through my coworkers, I always told them we've got to have difficult conversations with each other. And part of the game plan that you would have to have with relationships with people is be willing to have difficult conversations. It's going to happen, and you just have to be honest with each other. If something's bothering me, if I have a brother in Christ that we have a problem, I don't need to walk around mad, okay? We need to talk about it and reach a resolution that we both can live with and be, and it's kind of poison to your soul to walk around mad at somebody. You can't do that. You have to resolve these issues. And sometimes, it's like my children, I'm their father, I'm not their friend. I tell them that all the time. I tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And sometimes our friends, we have to do the same thing. We have to tell them what they need to hear and not what they want to hear. So difficult conversations, to me, is part of the game plan. And through all of it, Paul never despaired. He just continued to lean and look to the Lord no matter what. And from where, it was just, it's just amazing that everything he'd been through, that he never wavered in that. And that's a very, very strong faith to be able to do that. We all have moments in our lives that, things are just piling up on you, and you feel like despairing, but you can't. You just have to trust the Lord and not let it mound up on you so bad that you can't get out. That's the problem with the mental illness and stuff that we deal with, and the suicides that we're seeing in people, is we just need to make sure that we're kind to people, because that might be the game plan that God has for us. Might be that we are kind to someone and they're struggling with something mentally, and if the kindness that we show them, they may be willing to open up to us, and you could end up helping somebody and never realize it. there's just so many people that are struggling, and in society now that it's just not, people don't really want to, they're not really personal as they used to be. We all used to kind of get in each other's business, and we all expected that, because it showed that you cared about each other. But the society today doesn't do that so well. So when you're out, and out and you're in the community and out with people, be kind and look for an opportunity to say, hey, is this person struggling with something? Is there something I can do to help this person? But at the end of the day, we as members of the church have a responsibility to do that type of outreach to the community, and I know our food bank, that's a kindness, and that's an opportunity. So those types of things are just really, I think, really poignant, and give us, you get credit for things, and when you do things like that, we're not looking for the credit, but it gives you credit in the community and gives you a reputation, and that's the things that we do. We also need to do that, personally, to make sure that we have that with people that trust us, people, friends, acquaintances, that if we have something and are trying to help someone, and we have to deliver on that also. So we have to follow through on the things that we say we're going to do, because that's part of it, because that goes back to our credibility, because they're not going to, if they come to you with something and you just kind of tell them, kind of blow them off, that reduces your credibility. So you have to kind of make sure that you follow up on stuff and make sure that people understand. I've been doing a lot of talking. I want any of y'all to kind of, any circumstances that anybody's had that would be applicable to the things that we're talking about. I mean, how have y'all helped people? How have you been a blessing to someone? How has someone helped you that when you were struggling with something? Because this is a class, and I really want some participation, and I've been speed talking. So anybody got anything they'd like to share as far as circumstances that were kind of what we're talking about? Scott?
I was just going to call our attention to Paul in Acts 18. We give him a lot of credit for having faith and going places that were very hostile and challenging for him, but we don't often focus on how it impacted him emotionally. Because in Acts 18, beginning in verse 9, when he's in Corinth, he must have really had a hard time. It says, and the Lord said to Paul one night in a vision, do not be afraid. Now, I've never have seen that phrase attached to the Apostle Paul. But he was shaken. But go on speaking and do not be silent. And here it is, I am with you. And no one will attack you to harm you, for I have many in this city who are my people. God's with him, and he reminds him that he's not alone, because there's others that are part of the family of God. I think those are pretty key, principles to remember. But I just never associate Paul being fearful, but he was on this occasion.
That makes me think too that all the things that Christ did as he lived as a man, and he went through all these emotions, you just wonder there were circumstances that, like him praying in the Garden of Gethsemane. I know he knew he had to die, and he knew he was going to die, but you have to know as a person that he was fearful. But the thing that he was doing was praying about it. And I mean, we all, as you say, Scott, we all are going to have those moments, and it's how we react to those moments that that kind of define who we are and the relationship that we have with God is how we respond to things like that.
I guess one of the things that it's helped me with is understanding. Sometimes we attribute unimaginable faith to leaders, those who appear to be strong in the faith, and they are, but that doesn't mean that they don't have their time of challenge. So, like you said earlier, toward everyone, to encourage.
You made me think of something and just, from June, from D-Day, I read a book on Dwight D. Eisenhower, General Eisenhower, during all the operations that he conducted and up into conducting the Normandy operation. And he, when he had two messages prepared for one that was successful and one, but he also was praying about it because I mean, that's an awesome responsibility that, you have to think about what he was doing, and he's sending people to die, and he knew it. And he was trying to do everything he could to make it successful, to minimize that life. But he ultimately knew that it was a higher power that had the ability to impact that. So he was doing what any good leader is going to do, is they're going to pray about it. And I think that's what everybody does, even no matter what the position you're in, what area of responsibility in, there's going to be times that you're going to be fearful, and you know where you can get your solace and know where you can look for guidance and comfort is with praying to God and asking for his assistance. So, but yeah, I think that's something that we need to. Yes, ma'am.
Sometimes I think, what, in the situation with God, he wasn't afraid of dying. He was afraid of the pains of it. Because when they thought I was going to die, I had absolutely no fear of the hereafter. My only thing was I didn't want the pain. Everybody that says they're not afraid of the pains of death, they're lying. Because nobody, wants to feel the pain, any pain, especially, like the pain of, the severity that you might feel. And I think that was the situation with Paul too. He wasn't afraid of what was going to happen after he died.
Yep, he kind of knew. He knew where he was going, and he had confidence in that, and that's a comforting feeling, and not everyone can.
We all have to remember that God is the only one, with the power to help us. And that's the thing, so many people don't realize, realize he's the only one to turn to, because in bad situations, because he's the only one that's got the power to do anything about it. We don't have the power. We're just simple human beings that don't have the power. He's the only one that does.
Yes, ma'am. We need to. Basically, we should rely on him for everything. I've kind of shared some stuff with people in the past of Connor's death and last year, and it took us so long to get Connor back from Wisconsin that by the time the funeral came along, I had prayed about it and gave it to God and just trusted his plan. I don't know his plan, and I may never know his plan, but I know he had a plan, and that was involved with Connor's death. And it was kind of surreal at the funeral, standing up there and people coming up, going through the line, and I felt like, a lot of people were trying to comfort me, but I had prayed about it, and I was okay with it because I just trusted God, and I knew that, because what else was I going to do? Lose my mind? So I had kind of turned it over to God. So I ended up, people coming through the line, I ended up comforting a lot of them, which was kind of it was kind of good, and it was kind of therapeutic for me also. But I think that's just something that God, if you have that ability to be able to let it go and give it to Him, that it'll give you peace and it'll give you comfort and keep you from despairing and getting to the point that you can't function. I've just seen so many people that go through circumstances like that, and it really puts them down. And I had other children, I had a wife, I had grandchildren, I had responsibilities to take care of people. So I just prayed to God, and He gave me comfort and allowed me to get through that. So, but I try every day to do something to be kind to someone. I'll go to my grandchildren's school and ask them, what do y'all need? What can I do for y'all? And I just try to do things like that. And people that I, meet, if there's something I can do for them or something I can bring them or whatever it is, just that kindness is, it just goes such a long way. And, to be truthful about it, it's not without selfishness, because doing that, it just kind of gives you joy that you're able to help someone and be kind to someone. It's so much better being kind than being strifeful and looking for something that's something that's wrong. Let's look for what's right and be kind to each other. Anybody else got?
Well, you talk about that food industry. First of all, it's doing exactly what I was hoping that it would do, and that we're helping people in the community. We're setting up Bible study in the community, and we got over 12 people in this congregation that are working in it. And Chris came up the other day. Chris is a servant. I saw him go over there and serve his in. And he said, "Thank you, Terry, for letting me serve." And that's exactly what we need. We don't need to come and just sit on a pew. We need to be servants, like you're saying. And the other day, I don't know if Chris was with me or not. I think he was. But my son taught this gentleman that he's a high school now. His brother, they taught both him and his brother and his sister. And we left the Bible study with them, and we went over there to deliver some food and check on them if they completed the Bible study. And so we took the food in there, and they have no air conditioning whatsoever. I don't know how many people in that trailer. The doors are wide open, and you know how bad bugs and snakes and everything is. The doors are wide open. I went by there today, they had a fan in the window. And we worked in that yesterday. I know how hot and oppressive that is all the time at night, isn't it? Their floor has a big old hole in the living room. Were you in there, Chris, for a minute? The cabinet that we put the grocery on is leaning towards that hole. And yet they completed the Bible study. The only one out of the whole bunch that I talked to the other day completed the Bible study. And so they've been coming to church. We've been picking them up on the bus and bringing them on Wednesday. So only hope, like you said, they got is Jesus Christ. We're about helping them, but that Jesus fed people, but He was more concerned with their souls. And I am so thankful for this congregation and for all those that are serving and for the opportunities we have. We got over 30 families that we're serving now, and it's just all kinds of opportunities out there to help you. And like we knew it was going to happen once the word got out. They're calling me now. John got a text the other day, said, "I know you've been delivering fruit up here. We need help." He sent a text to me, and I sent it back to her and said, "We'll be there too." So, I mean, it's just a blessing from God.
And kind of like what you're saying, when people are in those circumstances, it's kind of a survival mode. They don't know, they don't really think about their soul or think about, God's help, because they're just so consumed. And if you give them a little bit of relief, then it allows them, and then that really improves their circumstances immensely, just by giving them that hope and giving them the ability to think of it a little bit.
That someone cares about them. That we're not just going in there. A lot of churches that about
Yes, sir. Yep. I mean, that's the exact same, thing that we just, we just need to be. I mean, and the other part of that is just being aware. A lot of times we kind of stumble and bumble through life, and we don't see it. I mean, you have to kind of have eyes to kind of identify those things and look for those opportunities, because sometimes they're not real obvious unless you're, kind of looking for it. You'll if you're out there looking for things like that, you'll see things that that just don't look right. Something doesn't look right about it. And it can start a conversation, and then that's when the kindness kicks in. But we can't just kind of blindly stumble through our interactions with people and not have some kind of awareness that there might be a need for somebody to help them. I mean, sometimes you miss it. I'm not, sometimes your people are they're kind of real protective of things like that. And I mean, some of it's for them personally, prideful. They're embarrassed by it, but you have to try to help them, but by the way you speak, give them a level of comfort that they're more willing to open up to you to talk to you. You can't, and never, we can't be judgmental. That's not our job. And we just, you just have to look for that opportunity and be open to it when you see it. Yes, sir.
We're told not to grow weary in well-doing. Sometimes it's easy to, maybe to put a Band-Aid, if you would, on cancer. And then we feel good about ourselves because we've done something. But when you get involved on a regular basis and you do what you can do and continue to do, you're having to give a part of yourself. You get to that point where you give a part of yourself, not only will they benefit, but you will benefit with it.
Kind of like the work at Charlton Place. I mean, I just have to know, having, when I was a lot younger, I worked in physical therapy, and I had to go to the nursing home next to the hospital in Prattville. And a lot of times the patients that I had were in the hospital. They went to the nursing home next door. And those people, a lot of them are just starved for conversation and companionship, and they just really want somebody to talk to. They're kind of isolated. So the things that we do as a church, going in and interacting with those elderly people, it just it's something that a lot of them, I know it rotates, but I'm sure that it's a lot of the same people that show up, and it's something that they look forward to. And that's a blessing to those people, because I mean, God put y'all in that place to be able to do that, to help those people, because that's something that they needed. So.
And everything doesn't have to be an organized happening.
Right.
We have things that we see in our lives all the time. And we know most of the time when something needs to be done. But we have a tendency to either be intentionally not do it, or we just get so caught up in our own self that we miss it.
How many people, if you're at Walmart and you're coming out, you're in a hurry, you got stuff that you got with you, and you got someplace to be, and you see an elderly lady struggling, what do? I try to put my groceries in the car and go say, hey, can I help you, ma'am? And that's the thing. She may say, no, I'm fine. I got my son's right here, but hey, you won't know that unless you go ask. And let, I can't watch somebody struggle. I guess I worked in physical therapy too long, because I can watch people and see that they're either having trouble walking, they got something wrong with their arm. I kind of see it, and I kind of gravitate and go, hey, can I help you with this or something? But I mean, you have to be looking for it. I mean, and a lot of people are just, not attuned to it. And I guess that's part of what we're asking here is that kindness is just, try to tune your senses to be able to recognize a need that somebody might have and be able to help them. Anybody else? I got 10 minutes and I'm trying to fill, and I'm not. I talk too fast. I have not done I'm going to give a confession. I've not taught a Bible study class, okay? I'm used to teaching combustion turbines, steam turbine, Hersigs, water chemistry, physical science, stuff like that to operators and engineers. And so this is new territory for me. Yes, sir.
You brought something up earlier, but that was that sometimes the leaders need the encouragement. We're told to pray for our leaders. We're told to encourage our leaders. Sometimes we don't see ourselves as being capable of helping someone. When we look back and we see where Moses needed his hands to be able to during war. And because of that, because he had that, he was able to be strong and they were able to win. And there are a lot of little small things that what seem to be small, but they're not small to those who were receiving them.
Stan, you brought something interesting up that through my whole career, I've been sent to leadership training. When I was at GE Plastics, they sent me to a course, a thing at AUM that basically evaluates leadership because they were looking for leadership. And the thing that my style of leadership is a servant leadership. I'm not gonna, because I grew up, 17 years old doing industrial concrete work with Titus Bartlett, and Titus Bartlett would get in the ditch with me with a shovel and wear me out because he could work me in the ground. And but what I learned from that was he wasn't asking me to do something that he wasn't willing to do himself. And that was my through all my career. I was at this evaluation at AUM, and they put you in a room with a bunch of people, and they're looking how you interact and that you're solving a problem, and they look who takes control. They want somebody to take control of the meeting and all that. Well, I know that the rest of these people are being evaluated for their leadership characteristics just like I am. So I'm offering answers and I'm trying to help, but I'm not taking control. That wouldn't be fair to them. And they after the thing, they looked and said, well, you were the unofficial leader, but you never took control of the meeting. I said, well, why would I? Because you can't cut people off. You have to allow those people to use the things that they have. They offer something that I might not offer. And so I've always been, and I think that's what, Christ is the ultimate example of that, is his servant leadership. I mean, that's what he expects for us, to do things to serve mankind with love. The last part of Luke that we were talking about, I was, that Scott's had the other last Sunday morning, where the Sumerian village, and they wanted to just destroy everybody. Well, we can bring, also these are the people that couldn't, vanquish a demon, but they're going to bring, fire and brimstone down on a Samaritan village. But Christ didn't get mad. He didn't get angry at them. He kind of offered to them that they didn't understand that he was doing things through love, and that's how he would win people over. And but they were gonna, beat people over the head. And I will say this: I had this discussion with my mother yesterday. Is the Church of Christ, growing up in the Church of Christ, there's once upon a time the Church of Christ there's and I'm not gonna say all, but there's a group of people at the Church of Christ that they like to take the Church of Christ and beat people over the head with it. Like we're the only ones going to heaven. Well, that right there, that's a non-starter. I mean, how many people have you offended and run off when you say something like that? You've lost your ability to influence them. You know, that's kind of what I like. Nick Saban. These people criticize him when these players get in trouble, and he keeps them on the team. Oh, I'd have kicked him off the team. Well, if he kicks him off the team, he's lost his ability to influence and have a positive outcome for this young man. And some of them are coming from very difficult circumstances. So he's maintaining that ability to influence people. If we look at people and are haughty or think we're talking in a position of authority on the Bible or something and trying to make it onerous for someone, we're going to run them off. And we've lost the opportunity to do what our job is to make them understand these are the things that you need to do for your salvation. And but people do it all the time. My dad, God love him, he was a retired E9 Chief Master Sergeant, and he was a Bible thumper a lot of times, and he had ideas about something. He softened as he got older, but he sure, I mean, he was a hard charger, and he, you know, growing up with him, till I was 18 years old, I went to a military barbershop and I got my hair cut either blocked or tapered in the back. That was my only choices, because it was going to be. So when I turned 18, my hair was down here. So, but we can't, you know, that's part of being that blessing and being the kindness is we can't try to beat people over the head. We've got to establish a relationship with these people, and then we can have those discussions. And some of those may be difficult discussions based on the circumstances and based on the things that people are doing. I had a young man that he actually, I knew him. He was a friend of my son's several years ago, and he got way off into drugs. I mean, he was way off into drugs. He went to prison. And he's out of prison, and he's at a halfway house that's associated with Landmark Church of Christ in Montgomery. And he worked for his father putting pool liners in. And I had to have a pool liner put in. And I called people, and I finally talked to him, and he said he would come do it. You know, people were kind of, you know, looking at me side-eyed because I was trusting this guy to do something. And he had to order the liner. I had to give him $2,000 to go order the liner. My wife kind of looked at me like, okay, really? I'm like, I trust him, you know. And he came in, they put the liner in, they did a great job. He had another guy that was in rehab that was helping him. They ended up bringing some of the people from the Landmark, and the Landmark has homes that they make for these prisoners coming out, transitioning out and back into life, into, you know, regular life. And we had remodeled our kitchen, so I had a stove, I had an oven, I had some other stuff, and I just said, hey, y'all come get this and take it, and y'all can use it in these houses, because I mean, it gave me the opportunity. I mean, I gave them the opportunity to do a good job for me, which they did. They did a great job. I never had a problem or anything with anything they did, but it also gave me the opportunity to interact with these other people from Landmark and be able to help them do something. And I'm not patting myself on the back, but I'm just saying that those are the opportunities. I might not, if I hadn't have asked this guy to do the liner, I wouldn't have interacted with these people and had that opportunity, is all I'm saying. So, and you know, as we go through this, you know, this coming week, that's what I'd ask for everybody to do, is to just look for opportunities to be kind. Yes, ma'am.
I want you to say, you never know, when something like that would make a world of difference. One time I was coming home from Baptist, and I saw an accident, and got out, and the guy had something in his eye, and, you know, I walked up to him, and somebody said something about cops, and the guy run. Well, that night, I had to go back and identify him. And I tried to talk to him, you know. And so the next day, the policeman
And that's what I'm asking everybody to do, is just look for those opportunities, and you never know when they'll present themselves. Thank y'all.